And we are live on Make Your Marks Facebook page with Sarah Raanan. I'm Jordana Mark. For those of you who don't know me, I am a social media expert, and yeah, I don't have much to say about myself. I'm much more interested in Sarah. Sarah's much cooler than I am. She is a branding photographer. She's taken all the pictures that we posted on Make Your Marks since we've opened the page for Make Your Marks. She is incredible, amazing, and I'm going to let you do the rest of the introducing for yourself.
Thank you. I have to say, I get very, very excited when I see a new one being introduced into the world. I was very excited to see your photocopy picture out in the wild.
Thank you.
So, yes, I am Sarah Raanan, and I wear two hats. One of my hats is as a personal branding photographer, like Jordana said, and I also mentor new businesses. Mostly that mentorship is like Instagram coaching. I do a lot of Instagram coaching, and I just launched I'm sure it's written in the blurb somewhere there. I just launched an Instagram course called Pump Up the Gram, which is lurking behind me here. In a nutshell.
All right. So let's jump right in. What is a personal brand, and how does it differ from a corporate brand?
Yes, so I can't keep saying good question, but I will say it's a good question. The thing is, I think that people are really splitting hairs when they distinguish between it. You know, I did a lot of research a while back, like really just trying to understand what what's the difference. I essentially feel like that they're really similar. The obvious part being that you've got the personal element to a personal branding. But I feel like the branding process, whether you are corporate stroke business brand or you're a personal brand, should be very similar, and it's based on what can we expect from you. So whether you're a brand that's based on a personality or around the company, you've got to focus on making sure that you are crystal clear on what's your brand voice, what's your vibe, what's your vision, and what are your values. All things beginning with V, so they're very easy to understand. So if you're a personal brand, you might be like sharing life experiences, you know, stories from the past that led you to where you've got to now. You could also share your sense of humor with me and let me know what your hobbies are. Talk about your pet peeves, which is something that I do a lot. And talk about your flaws and your quirks, and give me like a peek behind the scenes into your life. And I mean, you guys do all of that, and show how your business is run. I mean, I know, like, for example, that you start your day with a really strong coffee, usually iced coffee, I think, right? Or maybe that's just in the summer.
Hot coffee in the winter. Yes.
So it's all about you and what you think and feel and believe. And I think traditionally the corporate brand was a little bit more reserved, but I really think, you know, like, you're creating that identity for a business, so you're going to share insights into like what the customers are saying about you and like create a certain perception around a product. But I think that what really has happened is we've seen this overlap where, you know, the so-called corporate business brands are bringing much more of the personal in.
Oh my gosh.
So
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Because, you know, when you try and draw that distinction, you're like, okay, but what about this and what about that? I mean, obviously you can think of some you know, examples where there is the line draw, but I think it's got blurred a lot more. But you know, like when you're thinking about why you're building your business and what your identity is going to be, I think a big thing is, like, you know, for me, for example, with my photography business, do I want to get it to the point where I can, and people have suggested this in the past, I've worked with business coaches that are saying, you know, don't put your name to it, because then you can build it up and franchise it and sell it off. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that.
It's not the goal.
Doesn't light me up. It's just not my goal. And in England, there was a big company called Venture Photography who did exactly that. I mean, sell it off, but it's, you know, you can buy into venture photography and open up a venture photography studio, but that just wasn't ever where I was heading.
Right. Right. I hear you. Yeah. I that a lot of businesses are seeing the importance of bringing the personality out into the brand, you know, no matter how corporate you are. It's so important, and it's just so effective, you know, like I feel like Instagram stories is showing it, and all these different like social media platforms are just like, you know, like not embracing it, but like, you know, pushing it more and more onto the corporate and the personal, and everyone's kind of like going together. So I like that. Okay. What makes a brand successful?
Define success. Throwing it back at you. So yeah, no, I did have a discussion with someone this week about it, because, and it's just really funny because she has, even though I go on about stop looking at your numbers on Instagram, stop looking at your numbers on Instagram, it doesn't matter. But subconsciously, the minute you hit someone's profile and you see this massive number, you assume that they are successful. So we had a discussion about like, what is successful? And she said, money in the bank, which is very interesting. Very interesting. But anyway, that's kind of like a bit more of a philosophical discussion. But you know, in terms of like
talking about that yesterday with my fiance Tani, we were just talking about what is success, and is it money, or is it the effort, and is it, you know, so many things. So it's yeah.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is getting to fulfill whatever it is, whatever your goals and dreams are, that you feel that you're doing it. You know, the fact that I launched this course to me is a success. The fact that people are buying it is another layer of the success. And, you know, if I get to the point where it's this evergreen course that will run itself and I will make money in my sleep, then that's the top layer of success, you know? So I feel like maybe there's just this ladder, right, with different rungs. But, you know, having said that, there are obviously, you know, things that you can put in place. So things that I have learned, I would say, since I switched in 2018, I switched to branding photography from family photography. And that was when I really started taking myself seriously and putting things in place that I hadn't done before, which is why I'm always in awe of you and your processes, because you're so young and you're like figuring it all out like 20 years before me. So yeah.
Learning
big lessons.
You know, I got to skip all the steps because you taught them to me. So it's, you know.
You know. So yeah, I'd say a big one is doing your research. Like, I'm not a natural born fan of numbers, but I have learned to analyze and research, watch my insights, and test and test and test and test. So that I think that is a really big deal when, you know, when you are launching a brand, thinking about launching a brand, because something that may seem like a good idea to you may not actually be in real life. Another one is having clarity in yourself, like what's your unique selling point, like all the boring homework that we don't want to do, you know, printing off those papers from that workshop that you paid for or you got for free, and you look at those questions, you're like, oh, I don't want to answer that. Answering those hard questions. What makes you unique? Like, where are you heading? What's your why? You know, all of those things. Those questions are hard for a reason, because, you know, on the other side of that are, you know, the answers that you're looking for, basically. All of these things basically are things that I wasn't doing, you know, maybe 3 years ago. There's consistency and planning, showing up with consistency and having a content plan. You know, when I started using, I always talk about later.com. It's just the one that I use, and there's so many of them, but using an actual online scheduler and planning out what I'm going to say this month, what am I going to do this month, what are my goals, how do I want people to engage, what do I want to sell, what do I want to share, how do I want to feel, all of that stuff. I think that's a huge piece. And then we've got the creativity part. Like, I like to always, like, you know, am I thinking outside of the box, or am I just following along, you know, with the crowd, and taking inspiration from people in different fields and incorporating that into mine. I love doing that. Like, I follow a lot of interior designers and cartoonists and, you know, just fashion designers, still, I guess, in the same kind of
Vibe.
field, but, yeah, but not necessarily, you know, following photographers or social media marketers and things like that. Apart from me, obviously. And then I think also, you know, in terms of what makes a brand successful, there's being open to change. So to keep learning and keep innovating and not staying stuck where you are. I'm always amazed by some like Israeli brands that just, it's never even occurred to them to like refresh a bit and maybe.
Yeah, it's like when you walk into like your grandparents' house and it could be a nice new house or it could be the same house they had back in the 40s, you know, and nobody wants that house in the 40s, even if it was really nice back then, you know?
And one thing that I think Make Your Mark does really well that I wanted to mention is, you know, that makes a brand successful is to show your expertise. And I think it's hard to do to begin with because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know anything. I don't know anything that no one else knows. And it's not true. It's just you're inside your head all the time. And for you, it's easy. But there's going to be something that you know and you find easy and you have spent a long time working on that someone else doesn't understand. And I think we have a hard time with the word expert. And maybe we should come up with a different word, you know?
Be a very long time until I was able to use the word expert out loud.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily the right word. It's just the one that we have right now. Maybe we'll come up with one.
Yeah. Totally. I don't remember who says it, but there's a line that says, you know, you're right. I don't know who I'm quoting, but somebody says, if your brand is what people are saying behind your back, right? Like when someone says,
was it Bezos? No, it wasn't Jeff Bezos. It was one of those big names. Who's Zappos?
Someone big, someone important. I can't remember who it is, and maybe I'll go back to the comments later and give the proper quote. But I love that, you know, because
Jeff Bezos.
Who is it?
There you go. I know my quotes. Jeff Bezos.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So, you know, I love that because it's so true. You know, it's when someone says, you know, make your mark, they're not seeing the color red or purple, you know, like that's just not coming up in your head. Like you have certain colors, you have a certain vibe. Like I hear Sarah Raanan and I see that llama, you know, like I know that that's what I'm saying behind your back.
Yeah. I still like that's something I struggle with, trying to figure out what people say behind my back. Like the good stuff. I don't want to know the bad stuff. I'm not interested in that. I spent too long in therapy to be interested in what people are saying about me behind my back.
Okay. Next question. Can you give us some examples of great personal branding?
So of course, like
curious to hear what you have to say on this one.
So like I don't want to give like obvious ones because you know you can just go obvious on this, right? So I thought really hard about this one. The first one obviously is Jenna Kutcher, for sure. We both share a love of Jenna.
Amen. Yes.
And I can't even put my finger on what is it that she does I love because it's everything. It's literally everything. You know, the way she dresses, the way she smiles, the the colors that she chooses, the fonts that she chooses, her words, her vibe, everything that she stands for.
It's not sign up. It's just
Like and she's not. I find people like Jasmine Star, sorry Jasmine, so nauseating because I never forget she posted this picture and it was like, not everything has to be perfect. Sometimes you can just snap a picture and go for it. And she's like sitting perched on the edge of her couch with her hair cascading and her like white shiny teeth. Like I just snapped this picture. I was like, give me a break. Whereas Jenna Kutcher's like posing in her underwear with her stretch marks and her, you know, flabby belly.
Yeah. And she's
and you can't say like, oh, but she was being sponsored. She wasn't sponsored to begin with. When she originally showed back in the day, no one was sponsoring her to show up online and expose her
because she's such a great brand and such a great business. By the way, if anyone here watching has any great examples of personal branding that they have, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. Just by the way.
By the way, my StreamYard did not show me any comments last time I went live. They were all on Facebook.
Well, I have my Facebook on my phone too.
Yeah, so I
both-
learned a lesson to keep them both
Yeah.
open at the same time.
Yeah.
Another brand I fell in love with, I found Melissa Griffin when she was teaching Pinterest. So I knew her as, what's it called, Pinterest? Do you know who I mean? She has this course, all right, forgotten now, never mind. Hmm?
I said her name sounds so familiar, but I don't know who she is.
So I just had like this associated with Melissa Griffin is Pinterest, and then I went and looked her up, and she has this whole website of like, you know, like the film Mr. Magorum's Wonder Emporium. Like you walk in and you're like, oh my god, I want to play with everything. How does she do that? The amount of work that must have gone into the right. I have to look up what the Pinterest thing is called because it's really annoying me. Melissa Griffin. She. Oh, I love it.
My person is Sarah Packer, so I don't know.
Pinterest. It's called. Oh, it doesn't say. All right, never mind. So yeah, so highly recommend looking at her for someone who like has taken. And I don't know what came first. I don't know if the Pinterest thing came first and these other things, but she has the blog and the podcast and these online courses and her mastermind and just and everything looks amazing. Again, like I don't know why I don't find her nauseating. I just find her completely inspiring. So inspiring.
Line, huh?
Total goals. Right, where's my list? Oh, I think I minimized it. Okay, next one that I thought of was Casey Neistat. Oh my god, how did Casey Neistat pass you by? Casey Neistat was the first person that I ever experienced that was a vlogger, and he had, I don't think he used a GoPro. I think he just used like a regular old-fashioned camcorder, and he would scoot around America on a skateboard, and he kind of looks. You don't know her? Oh,
no,
gosh,
come up now.
And he was just, what Casey was amazing at doing was just being himself, unapologetically me. This is who I am. You know, this is, and the other thing that I learned from him was the king of consistency. My God. He said he was going to do a video blog every day. He was going to do it, but he didn't just do it. He did it really well. And he has such creativity. He came up with such amazing ideas, and he built this community. And it was a while back. So it was really impressive because I think he was one of the first to do it. He did a lot of behind the scenes of what it looked like in his studio. I never forget, he had like all these little drawers where he'd keep all his bits and pieces and kind of showed you around. Now it's kind of, you see that everywhere, but Casey Neistat was one of the first people to do it. And I'm always in awe of people that are kind of like the first to market.
Totally.
And he just was never obnoxious. And then I think one day he just decided that it was taking over his life and it wasn't good for him anymore. And as far as I know, he stopped. I don't think he's still doing it, which is why I haven't heard of him. Okay, I have two more.
Go. I'm listening.
Because it was really, really hard to choose. I had to include Doug the Pug. And I'm going to be really sad if you don't know Doug.
I feel like we have to like put some like links in the comments afterwards for everyone to like go
Go
look
up Doug the Pug. Yeah. You need a secretary sitting here doing this for you.
Yes.
Doug the Pug. I mean, how to monetize a completely like basic idea. It's like this. There was also a Twitter and Instagram account called We Rate Dogs, where you could submit a picture of your dog and they would rate it. But the idea was it would never get anything less than 10. It would usually be like 13 out of 10 because we love dogs. So, but they, I mean, Doug the Pug was the same. It was just like, you know how pugs never look happy, so and they would just dress him up, and I'm sure it's probably considered animal cruelty actually, but and there's merchandise. I mean, God knows how much whoever is behind this is a genius, because they've just made so much money out of the merch. And again, it's something that now a lot of people are doing, but Doug the Pug was the first one I heard of, and I love him. Go find him. And possibly controversial, my last one that I picked was Martha Stewart. I think Martha Stewart was one of the first
That's
The
cool.
first times I was really aware of what a personal brand was. Because, right, it's her name, and yet there's
Yeah.
so many different things. Like,
Yeah.
apart from the fact that we think about the fact that she went to prison, which I think is so irrelevant in the whole grand scheme of things, but you
Yeah.
know, like, she built that empire, and everything that she put her mind to, she nailed it for, like, and someone that just knew her audience, or knows she's still
It
going,
was
knows
all
her
under the
audience.
Martha Stewart name. Like she wasn't looking to go by any crazy name or whatever. She was her true self all the
Yeah,
way through.
absolutely. Yeah,
Such a good one.
big
I never
Martha
would have
fan.
thought of that. That's great.
Are you upset that you didn't think of Martha?
Yes. Well, I'm gonna go stalk her now a little bit and become my own little girl fan of Martha Stewart. I remember the last time I stalked Martha Stewart, but now I will.
Okay.
Okay. Sarah, how did you decide on your branding?
So it was quite the process. I worked with a friend in London at the time, and
Branding expert or just like a
from my brand hacks group, G.
mm, nice.
Um, so I didn't. I always imagined that the process would be like I would pin all these things to a Pinterest board and make this vision thing, and then there. Because kind of like my process with my clients, and then I just kind of froze because I'm quite an like eclectic, messy person, and I felt like this just completely overflowed into my brand, and I wanted to be a bit of everything. And if I have to look back, I'm sure I've got it somewhere. All the different permutations of like even just Sarah Raanan Photography, all the different fonts that I've had. I had like a cowboy style grungy one, and a cute peppy one, and a whimsical. I'd done everything,
Yeah.
So when it came to nailing mine, it was really, really difficult. But the thing is that I learned is that you can't be everything to everyone. Not everyone's going to connect with you, and you're going to turn some people off, and that's fine. And that really helped me
It's a
because
good
I
thing.
just thought,
It's a good
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
And it's about, obviously, like we said before, it's about how you're making people feel when you show up online. So where I really got started with it and how I decided on what my branding was being. When I talk about branding, I'm not really just talking about how I chose my colors and all that stuff. It's more like the feel of it, the experience.
Voice.
I
Yeah.
looked up online, I looked up these lists of brand values, and then I took all these lists and made my own, which I have available to download. I should send you the link for that, remind me.
Mm.
I have this list of over 100 brand values, and I picked my own. And that really kind of, it's strange. I like picked 6 words that I associate with my brand, but they also were words that kind of, I kept them in my planner so I could see them.
Mm.
And it kind of helped, like, to remind me, okay, this is what I'm about. Um,
That's so cool.
so
Sounds like kind of a vision board of words.
yeah. And then, and then from there, I started looking at obviously other brands that I really admire and buy from a lot. I think that really helped as well. There's a brand in England
Mm.
called Oliver Bonas, and they sell, like, if you've ever been to Story, have you ever been to Story online in real life in Sarona? They have like a bit of everything. They have some clothing and some tchotchkes and some
Okay.
stationery, and that's
Yeah.
what Oliver Bonas is like. And you go into the Oliver Bonas store, and I personally just want everything. And I was like, okay, why is that? What are they doing? What are their colors? What are their fonts? How are they making me feel? It really is a process. It's not just, right, I'm going to make a logo. Someone was saying recently, your logo doesn't, I mean, it does matter, but it doesn't matter as much as you think. There's a lot more to it. I think we have to keep saying that.
I always explain it to people like the logo is the cherry on top of your cupcake, but your cupcake has flour and eggs and water and milk and butter and there's so much in there that you don't see or know about, but it just tastes delicious. And that cherry is just little, it's just the final touch, your logo is just a little final touch on top that everyone knows the cherry on top. They're not looking at like what kind of flour you're using, but like really that's that's what the cupcake's made out of, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I love that
Yeah,
one. That
absolutely.
analogy. Yeah. Okay. What is the biggest misconception when it comes to personal branding?
So I jumped the gun a bit, didn't I? So it's a toss up between thinking that your logo and your colors are your brand, but there's also the misconception of thinking that you don't have a brand and that you need to start building this whole new image, because the truth is your brand is based on your truth and your reality and not some Kardashian inspired narcissistic fantasy world. So everyone has one. It's just bringing it out. So many people I've had conversations with are like, well, I don't have a brand. You've got a brand. You've got llamas. I've got so much more than llamas. But yeah. And it makes me sad when people say, I don't have anything. I'm like, oh no, you do. Everyone has something. Like in Cocktail, where Tom Hanks's girl says everyone has a Flugelbinder. Please tell me you remember that film.
No, I don't.
No.
I'm not a person. I'm not a good one to ask. Okay. What would you tell people to focus on as a starting point to creating their brand? And I know you just said that everyone already has a brand, but when they are creating more of a brand.
Yeah, so there's a few things. There's, like I said before, knowing what your values are and what your vibe is, and honestly, like just writing it down. Not because you're making it up, but just because it's like anything. It's like, I have a blurb, a bio that when I do, networking events, I have to do that 60-second intro. I have to write it down until I've learned it. Of course, like, because you just get tongue tied and you can't, like. So yeah, I would say like having them written down somewhere, so that you can incorporate them into your copy. When you're writing about yourself, that you remember to convey that to people. Yeah. Otherwise, you can just come off sounding very vanilla. Right. And you can really see when people have started working on it. You can totally see the difference. I would say also a starting point is to commit to some kind of consistency in showing up online, doing something that you feel that you can stick to. Like to begin with, I was told that you have to post to social media 3 times a day. Oh, and gosh. Yeah, I think within a week, I'm like, okay, I'm not doing that. Yeah. And I think there's so many, honestly, but not being afraid of failing, not being afraid of like saying, or not just failure, but just saying, okay, that didn't work. I can't tell you how many things I've tried that people seem to have forgotten about. Like there were so many different permutations of this course and of my coaching that had like different names and different ideas. And, they just kind of like quietly faded away into the background. Let's just forget about that one, And even like before all this, like, just so many things that just didn't work. And it's just fine. You need to like be in touch with your gut and to say, okay, let's switch gears. Yeah. And like everyone does it. Like I said before, showing your authority, there you go. Instead of saying, being an expert, showing your authority in something. It's important to be humble, but it's also important to, show up and show what you know, because you're in business and you're in business of selling yourself.
Yeah, and I think it's different when you're creating a brand when you already have a business and when you don't have a business yet. Because once you already have a business, you can like. I've had a few times where I told a client of mine, I said, okay, why don't we start, by figuring out a brand? Let's start by seeing like, what are other people already saying about you, right? Let's look back at your reviews, right? Let's look back at your testimonials. What are people already saying? And sometimes like, see the same words show up over and over again in all the different testimonials. They'll say, this person's so sharp. She's so sharp when she tells she's sharp when she's. Then you're like, okay. There you go. Like that's your brand. You are sharp, like
and also, that's so that's like when you're looking for your unique selling point, which is something you get like that I was told to do in so many different workshops. That's what I did. I went and looked at my testimonials, and that told me what my unique set. And it's not always just one word. Sometimes it's a few, but you'll find your selling point. And if you haven't got those testimonials, then you just make sure as soon as you are in business, like, you get into the habit of asking for it and not being afraid of feedback.
Yeah.
Feedback is always a good thing.
Totally.
And I'd say also, like, on the subject of testimonials, is to to really look after your reputation and watch how you deal with people, like in real life and online, like making sure that you know the difference between a reaction and a response. Like, you're in business, you have a reputation to guard. Like, is it really worth you replying like an asshole to that comment, or could you just fall back, kind of thing? Like, I see a lot of people just really, really burning bridges.
Totally. Much better to just let go sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got many more, but let's move on.
Do all businesses need to have some sort of branding?
Yes. Yeah. Like we said, branding is all about the impression that you make on people. It's telling people what's special about you. It's your reputation, it's your values, it's your tone of voice. It's how we experience you and how it feels to do business with you. And if you think back to any like interaction, I had an interaction recently where I think probably I analyze things a lot more than the average Joe, but still, like, I just thought, that wasn't that pleasant. Like, from beginning to end, that definitely could have been better. So it's, like, really, every business has that. Every business has a brand. It's just realizing it, like I said before. So a lot of businesses will do well and make a good impression, but just think how much better they could be doing if they were, like, focusing on managing their branding.
Totally. Last but not least, what is the most common mistake that you see with branding?
So yeah, there was a bit of an overlap here, so I feel like I kind of accidentally answered it before, but it was basically trying to be everything to everyone, because then you just end up as vanilla ice cream, which maybe not the best example because it's probably one of my favorite flavors of ice cream, but so it's, yeah, like, it's something that I really, really had to work on. And it was a funny process that I went through, because I was aware of the fact that I was trying to be everything to everyone. And then I found myself in a networking group. My first networking group that I joined was in England. There's thousands of people in it, but, like, you always have the thousands of people, lots and lots of lurkers, and then the few main players that you see their names over and over again. And everyone in that group was very, very sweary. So I kind of felt like, okay, so, and at that point I had no idea what my brand was, and I didn't know anything about myself, really. Okay, in order to be more confident in my brand, or I wasn't calling it brand at the time, in whatever, in my business, I have to obviously be like these people and, like, you swear a lot, right? And then I was like, I don't want to, really. This isn't me. And it was this really weird realization. And then I'm like, okay, well, what is me then? So
Yeah.
it's, I think, yeah, that is really, like, a trap that you can fall into, because you get worried that, okay, they're not gonna, if I'm like this, then they're not gonna like me. And just that realization that that's good, that's fine, because you're gonna find your people. For me, mostly the people I think that feel safe working with me, like, if I want to generalize, they're, like, the more, like, introverted people, or people that are not, yeah, I would say, like, a lot of introverted people. I'm talking in terms of energy. I'm not talking about, like, how people misunderstand the word introvert to mean someone that's shy. That's not what it means. It means, like, I don't think that I could work with a photographer who was extroverted, because I think they would suck the life out of me. Uh, and I just think like, yeah, you find people that match your energy. So basically, very long-winded way of saying that, you know, don't try and be everything to everyone. What's the phrase? You're not Nutella.
Yeah.
You can't please everyone.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like the biggest mistake I made with branding in the beginning was I thought like branding was like visual. You know, I didn't like in the beginning when I first heard like what is the word branding? What does it even mean? What are people talking about? You know, I was like, oh, you need a logo and a color and you know, either a circle or a square, and that's your brand. Like you're either circle or square, you know,
You chose a square.
or like, you know, or pointy. Like that was it. You know, it was all about the I'm a very visual person. So like to me, that's all it meant. You know, the branding was just the visual. And I don't know like who really opened my eyes to it being so much more than that. But once I realized that, I was like, oh my God, like it's the voice, it's the tone, it's the vibe, it's the, like you said, the people you attract. It's so much more than that, you know? So that was like for me, like
Yeah.
mind blowing once I got there, you know?
And I think so much of it is not being afraid to show your sense of humor. Like when I write to my mailing list, I really kind of just let it
I
all
love
come out, you know? And
I love
just
I
whatever
read
is in my
all of
head
your emails.
spills out.
I hope you're
And
checking your analytics from your emails and that you see that I'm always opening them and I always click on everything.
I do. I always look at who opens them for sure. And I had one person like write, oh God, she wrote something like, I think the subject was "You are a fraud and you know." It was all about having imposter syndrome, and she was so upset with me because she got a shock because the title was "You're a fraud." That's not funny. You frightened me.
Oh.
I don't think I'm for you somehow.
Right. No, it's true. When I see people unsubscribe, like the first time someone unsubscribed, I was like, why are you unsubscribing? Like, that was an awesome email, you shithead, you know? And then I was
Yeah,
like,
and it's
right,
that's
you
a
know,
process you have to learn. You're like, okay, bye bye. You're not my people.
sorry. I have enough people here who are not like you and who actually like myself. Goodbye. Yeah. It's a good day once you realize that.
Yeah, not easy.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was my last question. So, Sarah, I want to really thank you for coming on. This was really awesome. You're awesome, and everyone should go check out Pump Up the Gram. It's freaking.
I'm collecting post-it notes.
up. You see the sticky notes. Every one of those sticky notes is another person who signed up. That is a lot of people in there.
I got like a couple of gaps at the side there, and then we've got like 4 more rows, I think, at least.
Like there's not a lot of room left. So anyone who's looking to learn more about Instagram, go check out Pump Up the Gram and check out the landing page that Callie made for Pump Up the Gram.
Oh
yeah, stunning. So special shout out to Callie.
And I feel that like there's loads of links that I've talked about that I need to give you. So maybe we'll watch it back and figure out what it was I need to send you. And everyone look at Doug the Pug.
Yes. We're going to scroll back, look up all the links, stick them all in the comments for all of you guys. Thank you, everyone, for watching, whether it was live or in the replay. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and either me or Sarah will get back to you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank
Good night.
you.